afternoon, everyone, and thanks for choosing Across the Fence. I'm Will Michael, in today for Judy Simpson. As Americans, we value our recreation and leisure time. Studies show that we spend about a third of our time on recreational and leisure activities, and we devote significant amounts of money and land to those same activities. Perhaps it's no surprise then that recreation and tourism are two of our country's most diverse and fastest growing industries. A career in recreation or tourism may encompass anything from outdoor adventures to cultural arts, or theme parks to senior centers. Well, at the University of Vermont, the Parks, Recreation and Tourism program has a variety of course offerings for undergraduate students, including one that's rooted in the hills of Vermont. Across the Fence's Rebecca Gollin has our story.
Is big business in Vermont.
Despite our small size, Vermont is still the #3 ski state in the country, the third largest ski state behind only Colorado and California, at just over 4 million skier visits per year.
Parker Reilly is the president of Ski Vermont, which is the association of ski areas in the state. He says those visits are crucial to Vermont's economy.
Tremendous amount of economic impact for Vermont. For example, skiers and riders annually spend about $700 million in Vermont during the course of the season.
While a lot of that money comes from visitors, many Vermont resorts offer deals to in-state college students. At the University of Vermont, there's no shortage of students that spend some time on the slopes. For most, it's a nice break from the classroom. For this group of students, however, the ski slopes are their classroom.
I really love to snowboard, and I wanted to learn more about the resort as a whole.
Jocelyn Plummer works as a snowboard instructor at Stowe, so she is already familiar with the mountain as an employee. In this ski area management class, she's getting a new perspective.
You've learned the one part of where you are all the time. Like, I know the Adventure Center like the back of my hand, and then going to Stowe for the whole week. At the beginning of this class, I learned every aspect of the whole resort, and then there was a little part of it that was ski school. And I felt like I knew everything there, but still learned more about it that I wouldn't normally learn in everyday work situations, but then also got to go to all the other different departments and learn everything about the entire resort, which was really cool because I'd never get that experience just working there as an instructor.
I think you define yourself by participating in what we call lifestyle sports, snowboarding, skiing.
Ski areas kind of epitomize the great outdoors in Vermont.
The man behind the class, Dave Kaufman, is a professor in the Parks, Recreation and Tourism program at UVM's Rubenstein School. For nearly 20 years, Kaufman has spent a week at Stowe over winter break, holding his ski area management class. Yes, that's a real class, and it involves a lot more than just skiing or riding.
We leave here at 7:30 in the morning, get back about 5:30 in the afternoon, and at least half of every day is in classroom presented by Stowe's top management. And then some of the afternoon is also with management.
And then in here, we'll go in, it's kind of the main compressor room. And then
we learn pretty much how they run their mountain, from their management to their mountain operations, how all the snowmaking, the grooming, the marketing team all works together to produce a product that fits their market.
There were some very passionate kids in the room, and I hope that they decide to get into this business because that's what it takes. It takes passionate people that love the mountains, love to be outside, and love to be with people, and it's a great lifestyle.
Dave Miriam is the director of mountain recreation at Stowe. He comes to Kaufman's class every year and talks to the students about what he does and answers their questions.
I mean, you can make choices in your life about what job you want, and kids at this age are weighing that all out.
The overwhelming majority of our students love the outdoors, and when they get into our major, it's beginning to focus even more that probably is ultimately what they want to get into when they get out of school.
What do you think is the next largest department?
For some students, the class opens their eyes to future careers they hadn't thought about before.
I've known for a while that I definitely want to go into marketing. It was just a matter of I didn't know what kind of marketing I wanted to do, where I wanted to do it, and this has really made me consider any sort of ski resort, whether it be around here or somewhere else, as an option just because I love the environment, I love the people that it draws, and I just love being there, and I love snowboarding, and I just feel like any combination of everything that you love so much like would be the best job. So it's kind of swayed me from not knowing where I want to end up to kind of thinking I might want to go to a mountain somewhere.
I love skiing, I love outdoors, and I love to recreate, and learning about how I could maybe turn that into a potential business venture one day is pretty exciting.
Many of Kaufman's students do plan to pursue a career in outdoor recreation management, and they say that even if they don't head to a ski resort, the information they're learning will come in handy.
Even though I might not go into that exact industry, everything I learn is definitely helping me and is an advantage to some point in the ski industry. Definitely relevant information.
The class has been eye-opening in other ways as well.
It's changing the way I view ski areas as a skier. I have a season pass at Sugarbush here in Vermont, and everything from the way the employees interact with you and seeing the different types of lifts and the snowmaking options they have. It's a big business to run, and it takes a lot of employees and a lot of work.
I still see stuff popping up that I've learned in my other classes, but in a completely different and more like real life way, I guess, because you're actually seeing it, you're going there, you're seeing exactly how marketing happens in the real world, and you're not just learning about how it should happen or how it could happen. So I guess seeing the connection and like having the real hands-on experience is really cool, because that's what I'm gonna be doing, that's where I'm gonna be going.
That hands-on experience can translate to employment.
It's much more than just, ripping down the mountain, having a blast. I mean, all the work that goes into ensuring a good time for everybody is just so tremendous. And so this kind of program here at UVM, of course, really lays that bedrock foundation for that employment force, which again is so critical for the industry.
Spending time on Vermont slopes to learn about the business side of resorts. These UVM students could be on their way to a career in the industry. In Stowe, I'm Rebecca Gollin with Across the Fence.
Well, thank you, Rebecca. Joining me now is the professor who was in Rebecca's story. It's a pleasure, and I want to welcome Dave Kaufman from UVM's Parks, Recreation, and Tourism program. Thanks very much for coming in.
Good morning, Will. Pleasure.
Now, you are, how do I say this, uniquely qualified to do this. Tell us, you've been at UVM for 30 years. You developed your own and operated your own travel tourism network. Tell us a little bit more about your background, Dave.
Well, I grew up on skis, like a lot of our students, and ironically, I didn't go to school in Vermont. I went to Ithaca College, but I started my career at Mount Snow. Looking way back, my dad was one of the original owners of Mount Snow back in the 50s with a character named Walt Schonkenecht. And so we spent a lot of time there when I was a kid. And it was kind of a natural evolution to get out of college and, gee, I want to be in the ski business, just like a lot of our students. And so I started at Mount Snow. And it was a little bit different back in those days. The structures weren't quite the same. I said back in those days, time goes by quickly. And so I started in the marketing department at Mount Snow and worked my way up. And
not to date you or age you, but this we're talking about the 1970s.
Mid-70s, yeah. And then we reached a point where Mount Snow was going to change hands, and it was time to do something a little bit differently. My wife needed a little more challenge. She's a physical therapist, and Burlington made a lot of sense. And then I was fortunate enough to land a job with the state of Vermont with the Department of Tourism. And I was essentially assistant to the Director of Tourism for a period of years. It was probably 5 or 6 years. And along the way there, somehow I got networked into the University of Vermont and started teaching part-time.
So you got the teaching piece going on at the same time you're developing your own business.
And then I found a niche in the market and started to develop my own business. It was called Vermont Tourism Network back in the mid-'80s, and I operated that very successfully for 25 years. It's now owned and operated continually successfully by the Vermont Chamber of Commerce. And so Vermont Tourism Network, and somehow along the way, I served 5 terms in the General Assembly representing South Burlington as well. And then when I finally got out of Vermont Tourism Network, to keep this brief, I upped my ante at UVM to full-time. And I've been full-time for 5 years in our Parks, Recreation, and Tourism program, which used to be called Recreation Management, but we changed the name maybe 4 years ago to better reflect what we actually do. That's kind of the very brief history.
5 years full-time, but you've reached more than now a generation of students. You've had your hand in education for over 30 years. Tell us about the type of student or the kind of student that takes the ski area management class.
Well, when you look at the broad spectrum of the UVM student, we don't get many students that come to UVM who don't have a passion for the outdoors. When I'm talking with students on admitted student day, like I did last Friday, you know, it's kind of a sell thing where you want them to make the choice to come to the University of Vermont. And I tell them there's no sport you can think of other than ocean surfing that you can't do within 30 minutes of the front door of UVM. And I jokingly talk about the ocean surfing because now if you don't want it to be ocean surfing, you can actually go up to the pump house at JP and go surfing. So we have it all. And the vast majority of UVM students have a passion for the outdoors. If they don't like the cold, they need to go somewhere else. And those that really are into the outdoors and the mountains, we often get in our Parks, Recreation, and Tourism program. They aspire to do something in the country, not in the city. They love being outdoors, hiking, biking, skiing, snowboarding, and that's the core we get. And when they see a class in ski area management and they love the outdoors, it's kind of a natural match. We take our majors first. Then we'll take minors from across campus who minor in Parks, Recreation, and Tourism. And then the last few slots we usually make available to whoever across campus has a good logical reason for wanting the class. But it fills. We can only put maybe 34 in there because we do go to Stowe for a week and we can only accommodate so many. It works great.
No, in other universities, though, we would find this in the School of Business. And to maybe the casual observer, it's a subtle point, but it's actually a very significant point that travel, tourism, parks, recreation being housed at UVM in the School of Environment and Natural Resources. Why not the business school, Dave?
Well, the business school at UVM is more formal business, I guess I would say. And when you think about it, and this is the way I try to explain it, Parks, Recreation, and Tourism depends, if you want to get into a career in any one of those fields, you depend on a beautiful environment and well-preserved natural resources to do your business. People aren't going to recreate in a place that's not nice. People don't want to go to parks that aren't in beautiful settings. So we depend on what we do in the School of Natural Resources to preserve and sustain the environment. Similarly, the way I look at it is we can do all the environmental preservation in the world and sustainability and greening, but what's the point in all that if you don't have people that can come out and enjoy it and work in it? So it really is a very nice match, and I do truly believe our students come out with a much better understanding of the natural environment than students that might go to a parks or recreation program at a university or college that doesn't have a specialty like the Rubenstein School. I mean, we're recognized across the country for our environmental programs, and I'm real pleased and proud that our PRT program is housed there.
In asking the question, maybe I should have been clearer that clearer to our audience that I wasn't in any way putting down the School of Business. I was pointing out that it's the area of emphasis at the university that is not only teaching this, but is also placing that ecological, sustainable perspective on things.
Well, that's very true. And ironically, there are a lot of students. I've got a lot of business students who are minoring in PRT. I have PRT students who are minoring in business. So there's a very close relationship, and I actually do a lot of close work with the business school, more specifically in the entrepreneurship programs that we have. But the business school is fabulous, and many of our students gravitate to that as well.
A couple of minutes left. I have a couple of quick things I want to touch on. The management functions, that time spent with Dave Miriam, the director up there, that you're studying in the ski area, ski resort management class, those have broader applications than just that class. This applies.
Oh, sure.
Open that up a little bit for us.
Sure. When you take a class in ski area management, and when we watch the ski areas today, Stowe being a good example, and of course we spend a solid week at Stowe. The university has a vested interest in Mount Mansfield, but they're a really good example of transitioning to a year-round mountain resort, and we could possibly more aptly call the class Mountain Resort Management because there is that transition to year-round resort programs. There has to be, because resorts need to make money all year. And our students can take a lot of what they learn, perhaps not snowmaking or trail grooming, but virtually everything else, and apply it to virtually any outdoor mountain resort across the country. And so that part works really, really well.
I need to stop us there. We are out of time. I did want to share with our viewers that for more information about the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism program at UVM, you can go to the website for the Rubenstein School of Environment and Natural Resources. You'll see it right there on your screen. It's also an easy way to find out about other programs offered in the Rubenstein School. Dave, thanks very much for coming in with us.
Oh, great. It's always a pleasure to talk about recreation in the university.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That is our program for today. We know you have choices, so thanks for choosing us. I'm Will Michael, inviting you to join us back here each weekday afternoon for another visit Across the Fence.